that, I'd like to turn it over to Kimberly Lilith Phelps. Am I on? Okay. I see myself standing on a bridge. On the one hand are the Christians, on the other hand are the spiritual people. And I'm thinking, how in the world is this going to work? But it works in me. And then I hear God say, Lily, bring your hands together in namaste. It's in prayer. Namaste. Good morning to all of you. Tina kind of filled you in on me a little bit. My time here, I was going to do some of that, so I'll just skip that part. One thing I want to add to my intro that I can tell when that was written is I now have a beautiful grandson. So I am truly blessed. And 2 of my kids are here, and their sweethearts are here, and my sweetheart is here, and I have friends from all over the country here today. So I'm grateful to be here with you. I did first start out at Lake Harriet Spiritual Community in the early 90s, so I've been here a long time. At that time, I had been outside of Christianity for about 15 years. I was angry and I was confused, and so I came here, and it was a wonderful place here because I could ask questions and I could feel support from other people who were asking questions. So it was a great place for me to land at that time. One of the experiences I had here, though, is that they seemed to have the knack, the people who were leading at the time, of taking us out there to play in the ethers with the ascended masters and the angels, but they didn't seem to bring us back. That's something that I felt like the last 10% of what they were doing was sort of missing something, because they didn't bring us back to the earth and remind us that we're here for a reason. This is important stuff we're doing here. This body's important, this experience is important. And so it's almost as though they felt they were trying to teach us if we jumped high enough, maybe we wouldn't come back down. But I think that's missing the point. We're supposed to come back down. We're meant to be here. And it's important that we remember that. Back in those days, in the early 90s, nobody was talking about Jesus here. I wasn't even talking about Jesus here because I was still angry and still confused, and I was working that out. So the theme at that time was honoring all paths to God, but the hidden tagline was accept Christianity. And so I was here for 3 years as a ministerial guide, and that was great. And then I took about 18 months off, and then they asked me if I would come back. And when I came back, I auditioned. I did an audition service. I did a question and answer period. And then I said, before you vote, I need to tell you something. I feel a new calling in my life, and I don't want you to elect me if you don't know what's going on with me, because I don't want to surprise you. And I said, I feel called to talk about Jesus here. And I know that's controversial in this place. And so we talked about it in the Q&A, and afterwards I had people come up to me and say, well, I'm kind of scared about that, but I trust you and I'll go there with you. And so for the next 18 months, we talked about Jesus here, and we talked about that great master who could bring information that was helpful and healing for us. So today is Easter. I'll take just a moment. This is for my grandson. Today is Easter. It is also April Fool's Day. Isn't that interesting? So there's a lot going on this time, We had Ash Wednesday was on, not National Velvet Day, Valentine's Day. Ash Wednesday was on Valentine's Day, and now Easter's on April Fool's Day. So I think that's interesting. So I have many friends in this room. They span all the way from agnostic, spiritual but religious, not spiritual but not religious, all the way into very Christian. So I welcome you all here. We're going to talk about all of that in a way. Please know that my goal is not to convince you of anything or convert you to anything. And I hope that nothing that I say will in any way offend anyone. I completely respect every individual's right to choose their relationship with God, and that can look anything we want it to look like. And I don't believe that any person has the right to tell you to do that differently. So I hope that you will understand that I come from a place that does not include trying to change you. I am a seed planter, and I was told that by God. About a year after my spiritual awakening began, I was given the message, I am a teacher and a sower of seeds. And I thought, okay, what's that going to look like? And I realized that I wanted to be the kind of teacher who could teach people that you don't need me. I just happen to be the person with the microphone right now, but there is two-way communication, many-way communication going on here. I'm bringing a download to you that was given to me, and I'm just grateful to be able to give it to you. So we're all in this together. So, in the book of Genesis, there's a quote that God said, "Let us make humankind in our image." So I contemplated that in my study, and I thought, what does that mean? Because being made in the image of God is not about this. This is not who we are. This is what we wear. It's about this. It's about the spirit, the energy, the life force that animates this human body as we make our way in this experience. So in that way, we are all animated by the same life force. Therefore, we are all connected. So in a very real way, there's only one of us here. It's like one God coming into 7 billion bodies. So we're all connected in that way. I further studied that verse over the years, and a new thing came to me. Let us create humankind in our image. And I thought, who in the world is us? At that time, it was only God, right? It was us. Before we came into this body, into these bodies, we were all spirit, all one God together. And then the decision was made, we were going to be sent into these physical bodies to have this very new experience so that we could learn lessons that we don't learn without a body. So we came here, and we're still God here, working through these experiences. This is actually borne out even by the great Christian writer C.S. Lewis, who said, "You do not have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body." That's the same thing. That's that connection. And when we recognize that connection, when we realize that, like, I'm made of God and you're made of God, it's harder to hate you, isn't it? When I know that we're connected, that we're all one together, it makes it harder to hate, it makes it easier to love, and it helps us connect in a way that helps us learn to love ourselves, which at the base of my practice is self-love. Is the idea that when Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor as you love yourself, I think religion oftentimes forgot the as yourself part. If we don't love ourselves, we don't have that gift to give. If I think I'm garbage, what do I have to give to you? But when I know what I'm made of, and I'm striving to live from that place, I have a great gift for you too. So in my opinion, self-love is the greatest gift we have to give to the world. So, I skipped way ahead of myself here. Way ahead of myself. When I first became aware of this whole idea that we're made of God, I was working with my spiritual sisters, who are the two women who I wrote Diaries of a Psychic Sorority with. They are here with me today. And I was pretty freaked out by this. I was a Baptist little girl, and I was coming out of, no, honey, you're not worthy, right? And the idea that we're made of God was really freaky to me. And I just had to fit this in today so that my girls would laugh, because I have been quoted for 25 years saying, I'm not going on over with her if she's going to say we are God, right? And so here I am saying, we are God. Yeah, you think that didn't make me nervous a couple weeks ago? Mm-hmm. So, what do we do with this information? We either deny it or we live into it. What else are you going to do? And you have the right to deny it. That's the great thing about God, is you have the right to make your own choices. And you can move away from it. You don't have to do this. To begin to live into it has been, and to continue living into it, has been some of the most challenging work of my life. Because living into that knowing is about healing. We have to heal the parts of ourselves that don't feel worthy of being the image of God. Right? And let me tell you, I don't know about you, but that's taken years for me to live into that. And to figure out that, yeah, God's here all the time, every day, wanting to live out through this physical being. And I get to be in charge of that, which is really cool and really scary. It's a big responsibility to have that knowing and then strive to live it out in the world. Forgive me. So, then there's Jesus. I don't identify as a Christian. I haven't most of my life. It's kind of a loaded word for me, and I own that. But it's a loaded word for a lot of people, and so I just don't identify what I am, other than I would say I was spiritual but not religious, if you ask me. But I do love Jesus. I follow Jesus. I study Jesus, and for me, there's no confusion there. Christianity is a religion that people can choose. A lot of it I have no problem with whatsoever. But some of it I do have a problem with, and I have that right to choose. And so I choose to follow my understanding and my knowing and my experience with Jesus. And that works for me all day long. What Jesus did, in my opinion, was come here to show us how to be this thing. You know, you take infinite spirit and you put it in these tiny, fragile human bodies, and it just falls out all over the place. It makes a big mess sometimes. And so I think that Jesus came at a time to give us an example of how to do this walk and live from this place inside. It's interesting to me that when they asked Jesus, Master, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And you have to realize, we know the 10 Commandments, everybody's heard of that. There were hundreds of commandments that these people were trying to follow. He did not say, you must become a Christian. He did not say, you must expect everyone else to do the same as you. He didn't say anything like that. What he said and how he lived every day was basically learn to love. Sounds much too simple, doesn't it? But there you have it. That's what he said. And we are doing that. I think what we're doing is we are learning by making choices, some of them good, some of them not so good, making choices, and I believe we're learning our way back home. So we're sending information back, and it's all about what happens when, oh, that choice wasn't so much love going on there. This choice, okay, I think I'm getting this now. It's coming along. So that's what I see when I look for Jesus, or look at Jesus and ask to be led. And if you ask to be led, you get led. I'll tell you that. What hasn't worked for me is the fact that for some people, Easter, this beautiful holiday of miracles, the resurrection, so often becomes this big conversation about crucifixion and death and sin and guilt, and we're not worthy. Over and over and over again, we're not worthy. But God did this. God made this. How can this not be worthy of striving in life? That doesn't work for me. And what's interesting is I thought that was my only choice. I thought if I don't agree with that definition, because somebody else made that up and told me I had to agree with it, then I don't have another choice. So as I'm sitting there and I'm waiting and I'm listening for this service to come to me today, I got the part about created in the image of God. Okay, I got that. Now what? What does that have to do with resurrection? And I didn't know. I didn't know the answer. So I had to sit, and I had to wait, and I had to listen some more. And finally then, the answer started to come. And it came by way of a book. This is a book called Did God Kill Jesus? And the subtitle, where's the subtitle on here? I've got it written down. Did God kill Jesus? Searching for love in history's most famous execution. So that kind of tells you what this book's about right there, because how do you find love in history's most famous execution? It can be challenging, especially when you keep talking about the sin and the guilt and all that kind of thing. But Tony Jones had a different idea. And when I landed upon this just like a week ago, I'm still working on my service a week ago, I got all excited. I learned something that I've needed to know, wanted to know my whole life. And forgive me, because I'm going to kind of read some of this, because this is new to me too. I hope I can still convey the passion to you that I feel about this, because this just really rocked my world. When I found out there's way more than one description of the crucifixion and the resurrection, way more. And none of them, not even the most popular one that you're hearing about today, which is that God killed Jesus because he was so disgusted with us. He was so fed up with our sin that that's why Jesus had to die. That's killing the innocent to save the guilty. I don't understand that kind of thinking. So I found out, and I'm going to tell you about a few of the other interpretations of what the crucifixion and the resurrection might mean. There is the victory model, in which God is your spiritual warrior. There is the magnet model, where God draws you in. I like that. There's the mirror model, where God shows us where we've come to by using the crucifixion as an example of maybe this is not how to do it. And then there's the divinity model, where God wants you to be a God. That interested me very much. So I am going to read to you some of this from Tony Jones's book, and I'm going to, forgive me again, but I'm going to read it so that I don't misrepresent. The interpretation, the divinity model, is actually the interpretation used by the Eastern Orthodox Church. They are very big on the idea of incarnation, not just of Jesus, but of the idea that we are the incarnation of God, and that we have God's Spirit inside of us. They believe that the Adam and Eve story has to do with resurrection. This was so exciting to me, because they say that during that experience, we lost our most precious, sacred possession, our divinity. They say, and I quote, "Human beings were created to share in the immortal divine life, as established by the telling in the verse, 'Then God said, let us make mankind in our image.'" So now I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, so I get it. This is the answer. I'm laughing as I work. So I was able to let go of the idea that if I couldn't buy that whole other crucifixion story, I couldn't follow Jesus, I was nothing like a Christian, Christians wouldn't like what I had to say, I struggled with that. And I was able to let that go. So I want to give you a quote here from Tony's book, and this is about the people who follow the divinity model, the Eastern Orthodox Church. It says, and I quote, "Now we are broken, sick, and distorted because we're not divine as we were meant to be. Although a small spark of divinity still resides within us, we stand in need of repair. Orthodox Christians regard the birth of Jesus as a monumental act of love by God to overcome the chasm of death, which came about in the experience of Adam and Eve." Now, some people would call this the separation. At the time of the Adam and Eve experience, we began to believe we were separate from God. When you believe that long enough, you are separate from God. You have created that separation. And I keep going off my notes and then I get lost. Possibly the most famous quote in all of Orthodox theology comes from Athanasius, who said of Christ, "For he was made man so that we might become God." For Athanasius, the incarnation of God in the person of Jesus rekindles the possibility of our own divinity, our union with God. This theology, called divinization or theosis, sounds strange to our Western ears, although not to all of our Western ears. Some of us Some of us can track with this a little easier. We most often think of God as other, a being who lives exclusively outside of us and is basically unreachable by us, except through Jesus. While the Orthodox don't necessarily reject that notion, they also firmly believe that God is inside of us. We reach God by going within. Jesus came to reignite that spark of divinity within us. And I talk about this, I didn't know this particular direction of it, but I talk about this in my book because it says many times in the Bible and in different ways that God's Spirit is within. It's just that somehow that doesn't get emphasized enough. I think it doesn't get emphasized enough. It's not about, I'm finishing quote, it's not about what we do, it's about what we are. We are mortal. We are condemned to die. We are hedged in by our mortality and our always impending death. That's what defines us, and that's what seems to separate us from God. The problem is death, not guilt. In the resurrection on Easter morning, God defeats death and gives us the ability to once again claim our divinity. In this scheme, the crucifixion is just a means to an end. Jesus had to die in order to resurrect. How about that? So, in a very real way, resurrection is all about who we are and why we're here. It's about the divine within and living itself through these bodies as we learn to make better choices. This allows us to connect with our Creator in a whole new way. And now I would like to pause for a moment and have my friend Barbara sing a beautiful song for us.
It is not style that makes you whole, that comes from deeper in your soul. 'Cause who's feeding all of the children? Who's answering all of their prayers? While you're lost in your drama, your own picture show, drowning in all your despair. Skies turn gray. Sometimes you can't find your way. Sometimes you can't go another day. Sometimes there's nothing more to say. Sometimes say one last thing. Just say you'll have faith. Don't even need to believe it. Just say you'll have faith. Say you believe that the sun is going to shine again someday. And say you believe in the passing of time. Say you believe in the power of love and the power of talking it through. Say that you'll tell me just one word of hope, and I'll say that I'll stay here with you. Skies turn gray. Sometimes you can't find your way. Sometimes you can't go another day.
Thank you very much. When I do a talk like this, as I said before, I have to listen a lot. And I'm very accustomed to waking up in the morning and, here we go, okay, there's new information here. So I always get up early in the morning because God's usually still talking. And I have company this weekend, so I didn't even sequester myself last night. I sat down and watched a movie with my girls. And this morning, I did get up early, but nothing new came. We were busy with our coffee and our makeup, so I didn't think about it. And then I got here. And God usually likes to get just this last little word in. And I found this in my box when I was preparing for our burning bowl ritual. And this is a poem that I wrote in 2010, which was when I experienced my first Lent. And I gotta tell you about Lent, Christians are kind of tired of it. They're like, oh, it's Lent again. This is so hard. I love Lent. I'm like on top of the world at Lent because for one thing, I've only had 8 of them now. And so it's still new to me, it's still exciting. And the other thing that I'll tell you is, I'm a depression person, and the winter's tough. When the dark season comes, sometimes I have trouble, lots of us do. And so Lent has become this celebration time for me. The last 6 weeks of darkness, I get to spend with God every single day on purpose, and it is my joy. I don't think that we are necessarily demanded to sacrifice, but I will tell you that sacrificing something and noticing that you're doing it and remembering why you're doing it is a really cool experience. So I love Lent, and today is Easter, and I get to eat candy today. And that is this big a piece of what my Lent experience has been this year. I've done several different sets of things in my Lenten experience this year, but my experience this year for me was that my body is a temple, and I need to learn to treat it that way. So I needed to do several different things, and the one thing that I carried through the whole thing was just no desserts. And it was way easier than you might imagine, because God helps you. So, this is my Lenten poem that I feel called to share with you today. It is Lent, my first Lent. And for me, I feel like a child at Christmas. So new, this way of welcoming the sacrifice of that which we no longer need. This way of returning to God, that which was never a part of us in the first place. This part of what we took on that did not serve us and must therefore be sacrificed. Sent back again unto the Father, returned to our home where it can be transformed into new energy, new life. And this would be Easter, spring, the new beginning that comes each year, each new day, as we celebrate the great circle and its awareness of the cycle of life. Every day is Resurrection Day. I am giving up malice. I call forth the experience of the feminine as body and the masculine as spirit, asking only that God will show me a new way to be whole. So, my spiritual sisters and I have been saying every day is Resurrection Day for about 20 years now. And it serves us well. It's a wonderful metaphor for how to live your life. I mean, why Resurrection Day one day a year, right? Why not do that every day? And so I strive to do that. It's a way of infusing a whole new energy into your day and into your life. So it's an attitude and it's a choice. It's a choice you can make every day or every moment that you need it. And really all you have to remember is you just simply begin again. It's like in yoga. When you start to lose your place, you come back to your breath. You simply begin again. In meditation, when you start to go into your thoughts and you go out of peacefulness, you simply bring yourself back and you begin again. When my children were little, we coined a phrase when things were getting crazy in the house and it was going downhill fast and people were fighting and it was not good. We coined this phrase, can we start over? And it was like a reset button for us. Even with little kids, we did it enough. It was a reset button for us, and everybody kind of took a breath and stopped fighting, and we were able to begin again. So if you take nothing else out of here today, I hope you'll take out the idea that every day is Resurrection Day, and that's your choice. You have that choice. Thank you. Now we're going to move into a meditation. I love meditation, and that's one of the things that I love so much about being at Lake Harriet, and we don't always do that here anymore. So I decided we would do that today. So please get comfortable in your chair and close your eyes, and we will begin. And if you're an experienced meditator, forgive me, we're going to do a short guided meditation, and this is going to seem a little bit too basic for you, but come with us because we need your energy too. Some of us don't sit still well and be quiet easily, so guided meditation is perfect for that. So let's start by having a couple of deep breaths together. So if you breathe in with me, and out. And again, letting go of the tension, breathe in, breathe out. In this way, we begin to create synergy. We come into union with one another through the breath, and that will aid us in our meditation. Now, find yourself moving into a quiet place. Any quiet place, what you might call your happy place. Just find yourself sitting there quietly, just listening, waiting, quiet and still. Feel yourself open and receptive, and know that there is one thing that you need to learn about today that is coming toward you. It will be a blessing for you to receive this reminder that there's something holding you back. There's something that you want to let go of today. It might be a conflict in your life with another person. It might be a problem at work. It might be a criticism of yourself. Anything that keeps you from being closer and more in touch with that divine spark within you could be this thing that's coming to you today. What is it that you know you need to let go of? Call it toward you. And when you know what it is, remember to hold it gently. Don't shove it away. Don't disgrace yourself because you have this piece of lack or conflict in your life. Hold it gently and embrace it with unconditional love, knowing that it has brought you gifts or taught you lessons. It brought you something you need to know at a time when you needed to know it, and now its work is done, and you are ready to let it go. Now let's spend just one moment in this beautiful, quiet space. And now, as you begin to come back into this room, become aware of the people around you. Feel your fingers and your toes. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. now what we're going to do is called a burning bowl ritual. I'm sure some of you have done this or something like it before. It is sort of a formal way of showing yourself that you're letting something go. I hope each of you have a little piece of paper and a little pencil. If you don't, would you raise your hands and somebody will bring you one. And what we're going to do on that little piece of paper is we're going to write that thing that we know that we're ready to let go of. Whatever it is. Just write down a couple of words so you know what it is that you've decided you don't need anymore in your life. And you're ready to let it go, and you're ready to experience that moment of resurrection when you do so. And whenever you're ready, if you would come up to the table here to burn it, up this way so that you can go out that way and we don't have a big crash up here. And I'm going to light the candles. I want you to know that I've been doing burning bowls in this bowl for about 20 years. There is so much good juju in here. These things used to be rocks that would catch but I don't know what it is. It's almost sand now. Little pieces of paper are in there. I never clean the sand. It's got everybody's good stuff going on in it. So we are going to let it go. And when we let it go, that energy will go back to the divine, and God will transmute it and send it back to us in a whole new way in our lives. And when you come up here, I'm also going to give everybody a little mustard seed. With the faith of a mustard seed, you will rise. So whenever you're ready, come on up. Always interesting. Some people have to relight their paper 3 or 4 times. It just will go. And other people it goes, and we saw that a couple of times today. So it's a very specific ritual to each one of us. I really believe that it's happening, and it's going, and it's coming back. The mustard seeds are important to me. I carry a little vial of mustard seeds around in my purse. Sometimes I only have the faith of a mustard seed. And like Barbara's song, you just gotta have faith. You don't even have to believe it. That's how much faith you need. And I carry them around with me, and every now and then in life, there's a time it's like, okay, we need a mustard seed. We need a mustard seed. Let me tell you that in a moment, you're gonna think, now what am I supposed to do with this thing? I can't carry this around all day. I usually eat it. And I don't have to carry it around anymore. If you lose it, if you drop it, don't worry about it, because you got it already. And the worst thing that you can do is worry about it. So this is a blessing for all of us together.
Okay, if you could join me in a brief prayer. Holy One, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our lives. We thank you for each other and for all your gifts.
We thank you for new life and all that it brings to us. And I would like to place Amanda in the center of our circle today. God, I know she's with you now, and she came to you early and unexpected, and we're sad for that. But we know that she's in a better place of peace now, and so we place her in the center of our circle. If anyone would like to say a name of someone they want to place in the center of the circle for our energy today, please do that. If you don't want to say it out loud, just hold it in your heart, and in a couple of minutes, we're just going to send some love to them.
Charlie's late.
Creator God, we send love to those who we've placed in this circle under this beautiful dome. Love and healing in your precious hands. And then we send that love on out, up through the dome, and into this beautiful world, universe that you've given us to live in and to love in. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Happy Easter.